Hi, Atiba. Welcome. I'd like to introduce you to everyone, and I'm so glad you were able to come and meet with me today. So, I'd like to introduce everyone. This is Atiba McLean, LCSW. Atiba is the owner of a group private practice called What Really Matters Counts. Atiba, welcome. And again, I'm really glad that you decided to come and meet with me today.
You're welcome. Yeah, what really matters is what counts.
What really matters is what counts.
I know it's a bit wordy.
I apologize for that.
It's good.
Well, I really like your private practice name. I feel like it's unique, and there's a statement in it just in the name itself, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind the name?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think when I had passed the exam for my Lmsw, I was like, yes, I can do this. I was like gung ho, woo! And then I got business cards made. And I was thinking of a business name that I could, that called to me, because I guess how I saw it for me is what's important in your life. What is essential for you to feel grounded, to feel whole. And that's the name that I kind of came up with, So I also wanted my therapeutic experience with people, whether it be an individual or groups or couples or families, is to feel like what really matters is what counts. Like what's important, what are the essentials,
Yeah.
So got the business name made, was blah, blah. And I was like, wait a minute, you got to get a CSW. I was like, oh, really? So I was already ambitious, just like ready, hit the road. And so I had to take some time to get the CSW. And then, along that time period kind of got me to say, okay, I need to work on some other stuff. There's some other layers to this,
Right.
Yeah. So the name just came from that. I want the experience of what's important to you to kind of stand out.
Terrific. Okay. I really, really like that. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about why you got started in private practice?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story. It's kind of funny. When I graduated in undergrad in '94, and I went to Lincoln University, which is an HBCU, historically Black college. Mm-hmm. And as a child, I always had a job because my father had his own business. So he had an office supply company. And so what I would tell people, I said, yeah, my father has his own office supply company. That didn't make a connection. I said, Staples? Yeah. What's their tagline? Their tagline is, I think it's, we got it, or something like that. And I said, our tagline is, we got your back. You know what I mean? So I was always witty and quippy with things, So coming up, I knew that I liked the idea of being in charge, of making decisions, of calling the shots and having flexibility. And I think I wanted to have my own identity. So I knew that growing up, as a teenager and well into my 20s when I graduated undergrad, a job was there. But I knew that didn't complete who I was. It didn't sit with me. It wasn't calling to me, because I would always run into people who knew my father or just knew me. Oh, you look just like your dad. You going into the business? And I was just like, it's just like, yeah, I kind of said it, or just was like, I don't know. That's just not me. So one of the things that I did was I went to the new school, and they had this class, and it was called Careers for the 20th Century, or for the new millennium. This was 2000. And there was this instructor. Her name is Kathy Elster. And after the class, we connected. I had a session with her, just talking about careers for the millennium. And she was a career coach. And so she connected me. She was in the city. I live in Brooklyn. She connected me with another career coach who lived in Brooklyn. Her office was Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn, on Court Street, a Jewish woman. And initially, the focus was, I graduated with a BA in business administration. And so I had a business background. And so I would, help me craft my resume, kind of like, brand myself or just kind of get a perspective. And so I was going on interviews. I had a couple of jobs at different places in business. And then I guess on one occasion, she sat down with me. She said, "Have you ever thought about being a social worker?" I was like, "A social worker? Get paid $35,000 to get shot at? Like, just tell me you don't like me. Like,
Right.
who wants to be a social worker? Like, who does that? Right? Like, that's crazy." So she had me interview 3 Black men who had their own practice. And I think one of them was my age. So I was 24, 23, 24. And I got to meet with them. And the purpose of it was for me to have informational interviews. Sat down with each of them, talked about their journey and their path and what it was like to have their own practice, the flexibility, helping people, making a difference. And it was like, make $150 an hour. I said, "What? I've been talking to people for free, and I've been helping people not getting paid. Like, this don't make no sense to me." I said, wait a minute, I gotta look into this, So I was like, wow, I can have my own business, I can help people, and I can make a difference, and I have a sense of humor. So that's a no-brainer. So I think this was around 2005, and then I just started to look for grad school. Because once I finished undergrad, at that time, I did some substitute teaching, worked with, high school, junior high. And I knew I liked kids, but I was like, patience and discipline. I thought about doing something in education, English, but I was like, I'm not too passionate about that. And then Baruch was sending me information to pursue an MBA. And I was just like, okay, I go for an MBA, but what I'm going to do it. So again, I didn't know what it was. So after meeting with these guys and just kind of getting more interested in what social work had to offer and understanding that the field is so vast, right? So it encompasses a lot. Yeah. So the typical person, when you think of the social worker, well, you're going to take my kids, right? That's right. One thing. That's a preventive aspect. There's working with the elderly. There's private practice. There's United Nations. There's international work. There's so many things, right? You can
absolutely.
Be so I was like, wow, you guys do all this? Well, how come no one told me this? Like, it's not a field that is marketed and presented well. It's not spoken of, Right. And I think that's unfortunate, So when I was looking to go to grad school, I reached out to Hunter. I called, but no one picked up the phone. I'm like, I'm calling you, you're not picking up the phone. Like, I don't pay and beg at the same time. When I called Fordham, how may we help you? Come in. It's like, when you go to a private institution, there's a difference. It's like you're walking into a Mercedes-Benz and you have the Kia. Now, Kias are nice, but again, if I'm calling you to ask you about your program and information, and you're so busy you can answer the phone. So it was, I went to the school. I did a class on the weekend. I took my time because I was working full time. And I said to myself, I'm in grad school. I want to do well. I don't need to overwhelm myself. So I think in 2005, I just did one class in the summertime. And then by 2006, I just matriculated and just do 2 classes on the weekends. And I had my peers who were working full-time jobs, kids, and they were like in the 1-year program. And I did my 3 years. I did my 3-year bid. I was like, look, I'm not rushing it. We're going to have the same bill and the same degree. And I want to make the most of this opportunity. So I think that's kind of what inspired me. And then my first job in human services was with the Jewish Board. I think you and I worked for the same organization, just in different places. So while I started at the Jewish Board in 2006, I was in grad school. Yeah.
Wow. So that is really interesting, like to come from a business background and come from a family where there's business ownership, to then going and segueing into mental health, right? And it sounds like you had a really significant background in business to be able to launch and build your private practice really quickly. Because it's been, I mean, how long have you been in private practice? It's been about a year or so, right?
Yeah, so I passed the exam, thank God, in last year in January. And that's a story too, right? So the story was I got all my clinical hours in 2015. And then I was studying for the exam, and I have to plug this wife and husband. It's called the Lmsw boot camp. Anyone that's trying to take the exam, I would strongly advise that you do, because in 2010, when I had graduated from Fordham, I was still at the Jewish board, and I remember it was a Christmas. It was around the Christmas holidays. We would do things for the children and families. I worked in Staten Island, and there was a gym that we would host like events for them, like we would play basketball. So we had food, playing basketball. So I was playing with one of the teams, and then I collided with him. I had a knee injury.
Oh wow!
And so I was on the floor. Are you okay? No, I don't think so. And so my knee was like, so I was out of work for 3 months. I was out on workers' comp, injured myself. So I had a slight tear to my meniscus. So I had to be home. I didn't have to have surgery. So during that time, I studied like a madman. I was just got all these books from AATBS. I was studying, and I was like, so from January to March, I studied, came back to work in March, but I didn't feel like I was ready to take the exam yet. So I prolonged it to May. I took it in May, and I passed it. And I was like, wow, oh, goodness. Because I remember that morning on my way to take the test, there was a lady online. She's like, I've taken this thing 5 times. I was like, oh my God, 5 times? Like, what's going on? Like, oh, and at the time when I took it, you still could use paper and pencil. Now it's just like this cellophane sheet, you know? So I was like, what's this?
Right.
Yeah, I feel so old. You can use paper. So when I first started to take the exam, I felt a little queasy. I was like, oh my God, do I have it right? And then after a while, I was like, okay, I'm just going to take this exam. And then I remember it ended, and all it said was pass or fail. I saw a pass. I said, oh my gosh. I walked up, and I needed 100. I got 103. I said,
amazing.
What? So, and by 2015, when I have to take it again, I said, okay, I know what to do. But I have the books. Just get access to the website, take the exam questions. And when I took it the first time, I needed 100. I scored a 78. I said, okay, this is different. I'm not expecting this. So then through friends, I found out about the boot camp. So studying with them, I scored an 89 and needed 100.
Wow.
But took it the third time. I scored an 87, and I needed 100. For some reason, we're stuck on this 100 thing. I took it the fourth time, and I needed a 99. I got a 94. Took it the fifth time, which was in January. I needed 103. I scored a 111.
Wow.
So what I say to people is a couple of things. If you ever saw the movie Night School with Kevin Hart, there's 2 things to walk away from. Did you see that movie?
I haven't seen it.
I would recommend people to see it because, he has his comedy with Tiffany Haddish, it's kind of goofy. But one thing that stuck out for me in that movie was that he had a diagnosis of dyslexia. I'm not dyslexic. I don't know what I have, but obviously I wasn't focusing. So a lot of times we're studying for something, but we may have something else going on in our lives that may be distracting us. So although she helped him to identify that he had an issue, and she helped him to overcome it, and he took the exam several times, and until he learned how to focus. So a lot of times when you're studying for something, it's not that you don't know the work, you're missing out on something, or there may be a disability that's distracting you. So you have to find what it is that I need to get me over this hump. So for me, I was determined. So with this, during the pandemic of 2020, we were home. I mean, I was going to work, but it wasn't crowded. I woke up on Saturday mornings to study. I just kind of committed myself.
Wonderful.
And I took it, and that's it. So my word of encouragement for people is, for that exam, the Lmsw boot camp, watch that movie. And if you find that there's something, an obstacle that's in your way, find out what it is and see how you can overcome it to pass that test.
I like that. Absolutely. And I appreciate that, because I think that, people often get so discouraged because that exam is tough. It's no joke. And it's a lot to have to take in and remember and think through in order to pass it. So I really appreciate that. I think that that's really key. It's easy to feel like you're never going to pass if you've taken it once, or you've just seen other people failing it and you haven't, gotten there yet. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Terrific. So let me ask you this: has this process, because again, you've built your practice really quickly, and you've gone from being an individual practitioner to having a group private practice, and done an amazing job in a really relatively short amount of time. Is this what you expected it to be? In what ways is it easier, harder, or just different than what you expected?
Well, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I would say that in terms of my career path and just kind of my upbringing, my father is a person, he owned his own business, and he's naturally, if you're a business owner, you're a risk taker, right? And so, however, my mother is a person who's very 9 to 5, pension benefits, that kind of thing, security. So I think I'm a combination of them both. So one of the things that I did, because I officially left my job in December of last year, December 15th. As soon as I passed the exam for the CSW, I told them what my intentions were. And I told them when they hired me that my goal is to, eventually go into a private practice. So when I told them, I said, hey, this is what the game plan is. I'm going to, at some point, start my own practice, and I want to phase my days down. And so a concern for me was that I have a son. My girlfriend, she's an entrepreneur. And actually, this is her office, She sells skincare products. She sells soaps. She sells shea butter. And we've been doing this business together for about 4 years. And so she's someone who's very entrepreneur minded. When we met and I told her my dream was to have my own private practice, she was like, why can't you start today? And I'm like, I'm out. I got to have certain things in order. I have to have, a level of security. And then, when she moved in, eventually we had a son. And so I'm the one that's kind of the, the traditional head of household, so I have to be responsible. So I knew what my dream was. So getting there, I had to be careful. I needed to be the tortoise and not the hare. I needed to take my time. So when I started officially in April, it was just myself. And I remember reaching out to you and to other clinicians, just like for guidance. Like, I was like, well, how do I do this? Insurance panels. Oh my God, what is this? So I know when you started, it was much different from now, right? So now they actually have organizations that work with different insurance companies so that they panel you, and I don't have to talk to different ones, right? So one platform is Alma. They hold, certain insurances, and they just kind of do the work for you, right? So that made it easy. It's like, and I got that information just from reaching out to you and other colleagues like Atiba. It doesn't have to be as difficult as it was when I started. So I definitely reached out to colleagues and mentors. I look up to you and other people who are doing this, and I just got some advice. and I would just, you know, email you, text you, ask you questions about this and that. And then I gradually just became more comfortable. So by the time I got to September, I had been doing it for 5 months. I had my one customer, I had my second client, and eventually I got up to 6 clients. And where I was working, I had a great deal of flexibility, you know, so I could, you know, see my clients and still work at the same time. So I like that about my previous job, that it gave me
Yeah.
flexibility.
So huge benefit.
Yeah. So I knew that if right now, if I needed to go back to work, I need to be in a situation where I have some flexibility, right? If that's the reality. So my last job afforded me that flexibility. And then I started to think to myself, well, how much do I need to earn? You know, I need to match salary, at least I need to earn close to that. And in September, I started to, I have my SIFI now, and I got it through Stony Brook. So I was working with this student, and I've done the SIFI work before, but I just never had taken the course. So worked with the student, and in September, and I said to myself, I still want to do the business, but I don't want to overwhelm myself with cases. So how am I going to do this? I need to hire. To my colleagues who, like myself, had their master's degrees, had a license, and I started to build. And one of my colleagues, there's a lot of people who I've hired just because of him, you know. So it's just been word of mouth and letting people know, and it's still growing and it's still changing. Some of the people I've hired have moved on because they have 9 to 5, they have families, so I have to make adjustments. It's been a slow, gradual process. I've learned how to paddle with insurances as an out-of-network provider. I'm learning that time is precious and that the administrative side of the work is very important, but I need to do it at a pace where I'm still efficient, where I'm not doing so much administrative work that it's taking away from my clinical work, that I don't want to take on so many cases so I can be available to train my work, provide supervision. And I'm still learning. There's a lot for me to learn, you know.
That's terrific, though. So I love the way that it was kind of like a natural progression for you, it sounds like, right? Like you had taken all this time to plan, you had this significant business background, you had a family member, your dad ran a business, you'd been exposed to business ownership, and then you took the time and energy to really focus and learn what you needed to and get all your licensure where it needed to be. But it sounds like once you got to that place where you were ready, you kind of just took off. And then from there, after you saw you could do more in different ways, and like you said, the clinical and administrative balance was important to you. You kind of saw like, okay, well, actually, I can have other people doing some of this. I think that's great. Yeah, it's terrific. So, when you think about what do you look for when you think about hiring? What is that process like for you? I mean, I know you said primarily through word of mouth, and that's similar to me. I think I've never advertised. I've never had to place an ad, and I have, a full practice. And you said for you, it's also been word of mouth. What do you look for? What do you think about when you're bringing people on?
Well, what I'm learning to look for is the person's level of adaptability, right? Because what I realize is that anyone can look good on paper. Right? I mean, there are people who have extensive experience. So I have people, who are MSWs. I do have, now I have, I think one person who has that license, 2 people have that licenses. But the reason why I say adaptability is because in one of the key functions in our work is the writing, the progress notes, right? So I recently attended a Zoom with this lady talking about how to write effective progress notes so that you're audit ready, right? So coming from a background in social work preventive, where we were kind of encouraged to write detailed notes, right? And now in the clinical format, it has to be terse, it has to be structured, and there's a format. And I think while I was doing my internship, I did work at a clinic on Coney Island Avenue. And it was a great experience. It didn't work out for me. It was part of my internship. And so I had a couple of families that I would see, but I was just accustomed to writing these extensive notes. And for some reason, they needed for it to be truncated, but I was never trained, right? So now fast forward, I have my own practice and I'm writing notes and I'm bibliographies and stuff like that. And I said, wait a minute, we gotta. And I slowly got myself to become more terse. And it's a work in progress. So after this session, recent Zoom, I had to tell my people, I was like, look, we got to change the way we're doing this, right? Because I mean, if we get audited, it's a wrap. So one of the things that I look for is, what I say is, the way you write and the way you speak says a lot about you, right? Because the way we speak it's natural. But when we're writing, it tells me a lot about who you are and how do you shape and how do you think, right? So yes, when we're writing stuff, there's going to be errors and stuff like that, and also the ability to follow instructions, right? Because I get that sometimes people want to do their own thing, and now I can get to understand, like when I'm working as an employee, and your boss tells you to do something, and you want to do your own thing. It's like, but that's not what I told you to do,
And that's not what we need you to do, right?
You know what I'm saying? That's not what I told you to do. So adaptability, I guess their ability to engage with the clients when we're talking about cases and things that come up, the differences that they make. Because as I'm talking to them, they say, oh man, so-and-so is really praised me. And at one time, one of my clients, his wife called me out the blue. She was like, oh, Atiba, so-and-so, this other practice is looking for a Black male therapist. And I said, like, who is this? And I was like, well, this is so-and-so. I was like, okay. And by the way, you're doing a great job on my husband. I was like, well, the therapist that I have working with, she was like, you're doing a great job. So, and that feels good to hear that myself, my clinicians are doing great work with the individuals. So
wonderful.
It's the work that they do, being adaptable, how they write. And not everybody's going to have all those things lined up at first. So it's just being able to, at least if you have interpersonal skills, that's good. So the right skills, right? Yeah, and engagement, so all that other stuff. And that just comes with time, So I have to see how, after I give you a case, how do you work it? Are you flexible? Do you know how to, and I tell my clinicians, use your DSM-5, use the internet, use your resources, take your CEU courses so you can have more information. Although I may have my license, there's things that I can learn from you. Just because I have my license doesn't mean that I know everything. I need to have information that I don't have. So we need to have an exchange of ideas,
Absolutely. I love that. Absolutely. And where is your practice located? Or is it virtual primarily? Is it in brick and mortar?
So right now it's virtual. So I do share an office with my girlfriend at the Brooklyn Commons. And so when I do my sessions, I do it here primarily. Sometimes I do it at home if my son is not like running around. But here, and then my clinicians are in the 5 boroughs, so they out of their homes, they set their schedules with their clients, and it's just like that. Here at this space, I do have access to meeting and staff rooms. Now with this COVID stuff, I'm kind of like, and it's like, it works. I mean, I guess one of the mixed blessings out of all of this is that it allowed, I guess, society to step up their game in terms of technology. So now we can interface, right? So I no longer have to come to you and we can sit down and talk and have a conversation. But for some people who have been in therapy, they may not like that. They may want a place to come to. And some people who are doing it for the first time may need to have someone. But I've, so far, with my clients, it works that, you can be in Long Island and I'm here in Brooklyn, you can be in another borough and it works. So we make it work.
Absolutely. Yeah, what's wonderful. I have to say, I found the same thing, like transitioning to being completely virtual. It's been really, really good. I mean, most of the clients have adapted really well and just enjoyed it. So Atiba, is there anything else that you want to say today? Anything that you think is important to share about your practice, about you as a business owner, or you as, a business supervisor and a therapist?
Well, all I would say is, I was saying this to someone the other day, is that I think what's most important for people in life is, as the cliche thing is, to find your own purpose. And inside of that, not everyone has to be a business owner. And it's okay if you work with someone else. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's most important is that what you do gives you some inspiration and that you enjoy it. And then that, and in addition to that, that you do it well, you do it the best way possible. And you try to do it in a way where it makes a difference, because what really matters is what counts. So I always think about that. And that's what I'm left with. And, I'm also looking for clinicians, always looking for clinicians.
Well, let me ask you about that. If people want to reach you, whether they want to apply for therapy, whether they want to apply for a position with you, how can they find you?
Well, you can Google me. Okay. But I'm on, I know I wanted to say that. I'm on Psychology Today. I'm also on a platform called Alma, ALMA, and you'll see my stuff pop up. And I think one of the things that I like about, I guess, in the era that we don't necessarily have to have a traditional website, although it works.
Right.
And so people, because, sometimes I've had clients say, oh, so-and-so referred me to you. And I may know the person, may not know the person. But I think once you're kind of on certain platforms, people kind of see you. Absolutely. So you can just reach out to me. And like I said, I'm on Psychology Today. You can type in my name. I was thinking of maybe, because I have a group, maybe doing it under the name as opposed to just my name, and then under the other platform, Alma. So reach out to me, whether you're looking for therapeutic services or would like to, work with the team.
Terrific. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Atiba. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm sure we will be in touch and we'll talk again soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.